Welcome to the Way Up podcast with your host, Jeff Knoll. In today's episode, I have the privilege of sitting down with a remarkable individual who has dedicated his life to helping others break free from the shackles of addiction. Joining me is Dr. Robb Kelly, PhD, a sought-after recovery expert who brings a unique perspective to the table. Dr. Kelly's journey is one of profound transformation, from battling his own demons of alcoholism that cost him everything, to finding redemption and purpose through faith. His life story is inspiring and empowering. Through the grace of God, Dr. Kelly not only rebuilt his life, but also dedicated himself to understanding the root causes of addiction, advocating for a holistic approach to recovery. His expertise has been sought after on various platforms, including television shows like The Doctors and Good Morning Texas, where he shares insights on addiction and recovery. He's also been on several radio shows, done research at prestigious institutions like McLean Hospital, Harvard Medical School, and authored an enlightening book, Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. In this episode, Dr. Kelly opens up about his personal journey, sharing the highs and lows of his battle with alcoholism, and how his faith played a pivotal role in his recovery. Be sure to listen all the way to the end so you don't miss the steps you can take right now to rewire your brain and change your behavior. Thank you for joining us on the Way Up podcast, where we grow together. The Way Up podcast is proudly brought to you by my real estate team, the Noble Team eXp Realty. We're redefining industry standards in the markets we operate, distinguishing ourselves from the crowd. We leverage our uniqueness to gain a strategic edge, all while elevating not only ourselves, but also those in our world, including our competitors. Join us on this journey. Your time and investment will undoubtedly be well placed. Hang with us till the end. I know you won't be disappointed. I am really excited to be here with Dr. Robb. I'm seeing you all over people's feeds and TikTok. You're kind of blowing up because you are an addiction doctor, Dr. Robb Kelly. You are helping people overcome addiction, which a lot of people battle.
Yeah, they do, and it's still in the closet, would you believe? Nobody. I work with movie stars, musicians, all the A-list guys, and not one of them is going to come out and go, "Hey, this is what I had," and now I'm, recovered from that stuff, because obviously we know it's going to happen. I mean, even if in a normal job, if you're a mechanic and you come out and go, "Hey, they're struggling for alcoholism, but I think I'm okay now," then there's a blotted mark against you. Do one thing wrong and I'm going to blame it on the alcoholism. So I get it. And when I started this some 30 years ago, my idea is to be as loud and proud as possible about my journey, and hoping that somebody else will come along and do the same. And, some people have. Some of the movie stars I've worked with have come out and say, "Hey, this is me now, but I used to be this." But yeah, and the reason why I think a lot of problems there is nobody actually knows what addiction is. Nobody actually knows what alcoholism is. They think it's taking too much alcohol or drugs or childhood trauma or depression. I mean, it's not about what you think it's about. And there lies the problem.
Yeah. Well, I know that your particular story, and I want you to share that, so listeners that may not be familiar yet will hear kind of your background. You deal mainly with alcoholism. Is that correct?
It used to be 90% alcoholism and drug addict, but lately, over the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say 20% people have come to me with alcohol and drug. The rest are childhood trauma, depression, guys who are CEOs but want to take the company to a next level, or dads that's depressed, but all kinds of walks of life, because we started to specialize using neuroscience in childhood trauma and depression. So all walks of life right now, but everybody has trauma. Everybody has trauma, and a lot of people who suffer from addiction have childhood trauma that's just crazy.
So would you mind go ahead and share your story? Because it's super impactful. I've been, since Courtney from your staff reached out to me, I've been just absorbing all of the content I can find, and your story blew me away, man.
It's a crazy story, and a lot of the things in there, which I won't cover everything because it'll take us like 2 days, but I didn't disclose because I didn't think people would believe me. They were that crazy. But took my first drink at the age of 9 on stage with my musical family playing bass guitar, and was kind of a ticking time bomb from there. As I look back today, knowing what I know today, went to normal school, went to college, drinking weekends with the band. And then obviously slowly but surely it started to take over my life where I was drinking every day. But the problem with alcoholism is that you don't know you suffer from alcoholism. But when you're outside at 5:30 in the morning, you're walking around your garden drinking half a bottle of vodka, you would imagine that you would say to yourself, hey, there could be a problem. But my success at the time, even though it's nothing like it is today, masked my alcoholism, because I bought a house on the hill. We had Mercedes every year. We'd swapped out the kid, we had everything. So it masked it. And my excuse was, look what I provide. So surely I can have a drink. But I didn't see it was getting out of control. So we had two children, ages 1 and 3, when it all come to an end. But yeah, I mean, I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. I left the kids in cinema while I run 5 miles in the car to pick up a bottle of vodka. I mean, just some crazy things that happen in the house. And eventually, my wife took the children and left. And rightly so. People say today, well, you got better. So no, I stole 10 years of that woman's life that I could never give back. And, I lost my children, ages 1 and 3. And the last thing my daughter said to me was, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't. I really couldn't, Jeff. And, 3, 4, 6 months, it's all a blur. I went from my house. I let them live in the house. I went to my parents. I went from parents to acquaintances, and from acquaintances to the streets. And even though I grew up on the projects, the difference between the projects and the streets is like the difference between the projects and $1 million house. I mean, it shocked me. And I remember moving into my dad's again, mum and dad's, and they threw me out. And then it gave me like £40. Back in the day, that was like $300 now today. And he said, you got to leave. And he closed the door on me, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, pouring down with rain. In Manchester, it was cold. And then I get in a bus, buy some alcohol that I had before, getting the bus into town to the gardens, and I'm sat on one of the benches, having nowhere to go. And I thought the first thought pattern was, where did that just go wrong? Where the hell did that just go wrong? And there started my 14 months on the streets. And when I explain that, people go, oh yeah, was I like staying at friends and stuff? I was staying on park benches. I was staying underneath trees because I was so cold. And everybody had abandoned me, and I was begging for money for alcohol. And if I didn't get enough money, I'd go and steal the alcohol, no problem. I was arrested several times for drunk and disorderly, it was just horrendous, And every birthday and Christmas that came along, every children's birthday and Christmas, spent the whole day just sobbing, Just I was abandoned, lonely, sad, and suicidal. So I tried to commit suicide on 7 occasions, and on 2 of them occasions, I actually died. And they brought me back to life on the side of a rainy, horrible, stinky road in the back ends of nowhere in Manchester. And I hated them men for that, Jeff. I hated them paramedics for bringing me back to life, because I couldn't live without alcohol. I couldn't live without it. I was at that jumping point where, I often tell people today, I didn't actually go to hell, but I could sure see it from where I was. From the streets, and horrible things happen on the streets. Remember one morning waking up in early hours of the morning, the guy next to me is stabbed to death for his sneakers. That's the environment I was in. Bare knuckle boxing to earn some money, with the travelers. It was just, I woke up in some crazy situations of waiting for guys to come out of nightclubs drunk, and I'll, knock them out with a punch behind them and steal the wallet. And it was a horrible thing that I got up to, but it was survival instinct for me. And yeah, that's kind of my story. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but I was ashamed, Jeff. I was ashamed that I'd let my kids down, let my wife down, parents down, brother and sister don't talk to me, brother still don't talk to me after 30 years. And of course, I lost my children. And there I was, just couldn't live, I couldn't die, I couldn't live. It was just amazing. The amount of times I tried to die, it just wasn't happening. I remember walking up, getting up. I used to be in telecoms years ago. I used to get up to this roof of this 25-story building. I got up in the loft to where the telecommunications went, and I'm stood on the edge of the building. And the idea was to drink this bottle of vodka down in one, the big handle ones, drink it down in one, and just fall off to my death, which seemed a great idea at the time. The only problem with that is I fell backwards. When I woke up, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And it went like that, and one day, back in Manchester again, early hours in the morning, I dropped down to my hands and knees and I started sobbing like a baby. I wasn't sobbing because I'd lost my children and my wife and my job and my car and my life. I was crying because I realized that right there in that moment, I couldn't stop drinking. And it took all of that for me to finally surrender and go, I can't do this. And I remember looking up to the sky as an atheist and saying, this is how desperate I was. If there is a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner, missed his last bus home, took a shortcut he'd never taken before, and came up on me. And that's where my life changed.
That's powerful.
And it gets crazier than that. He took me back to his house, nice guy, he's in recovery, he's also a Christian. I showered for the first time in a year. I ate some proper food. And the next day, I woke up and he was waiting downstairs for me. So I got to go to work, but tonight you've got to come to an AA meeting with me. Well, I hated them meetings. Like, oh no, not again, war stories. But he took me there and I could stay as long as I wanted to, which is a dry bed as far as I'm concerned. So I went to the meeting. And while I was there, I met a guy called John. He spoke sense. And I went up to him after and said, hey, John Manning, will you sponsor me? And he said, no, but I will be a spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks, which I thought, okay, weird. But I liked what he said, and he seemed a real good guy. So I went round to his house. I walked there for an hour on every Wednesday, got there for 7, couldn't go in before 7. Went in at 7, he'd teach me about everything, about God, about, what I was there for and why I'd been chosen, and all this crazy stuff that I kind of believed, kind of didn't. But on the 12th week, on the Wednesday, I walked out the man's house a different person. And he said to me, your life will change from tomorrow. And I said, John, thank you for everything. But I'm living in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress, and nobody knows I'm there. God, the very next day, Jeff, Derek came home from work at 12 o'clock during his lunch hour. And he said, hey, the guy that sweeps the floor in the factory just resigned. Do you want a part-time job? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. So I went straight back to work with him, and, I got on with everybody and joking and laughing. They turned into a full-time job by the end of a week. So after several weeks, I bought John a little teddy bear from the gas station and a card. And I wrote on the card, John, thank you for introducing me to God, because he, capital H, took the compulsion to drink away. And I went back to his house, and I got there, and it looked a little different, like the curtains were not, kind of bare. And I remember knocking on the door, really excited to give John this little teddy bear and tell him how he was right. And the right-hand side neighbor opened, and she says, hey, can I help you? I said, yeah. Have you seen John? Does John live here? Have you seen him? And she said, John? And I said, yeah, John. She went, I've only been here 3 months in this apartment, and there's been nobody in that apartment for the 3 months I know of. So I went round to the left-hand door, and I knocked in. A big guy come to the door. He's like, what do you want? I said, where's John moved to? He said, John who? I said, John, the neighbor. John. John, what's that one? John. And he said, you're wasting my time. You can't go in that apartment. It's derelict. If you walk in that door, you'll fall down to the basement. And we don't know what you're talking about. You've got the wrong address. So now I'm a little bit confused, but reckon these two are drunk or wasted or, So I went back to the meeting the next night, and the chairman was there, and he said, Rob, I said, oh my God, you remember me? And he said, yeah, remember you, awesome guy. I said, does John still come here? And he said, John who? I said, John. The guy to come in, then I was over at the coffee machine, we were chatting away about going every Wednesday, and John. And he said, Rob, we were kind of smiling because you was over there talking to yourself. We thought you were talking to God because you knew he was an atheist. Never found that man, Jeff.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. And what he taught me is kind of 90% of what I do today. He's like 97% success rate, absolutely unheard of. Money back guarantee if you ever drink or use again while following our program. That's what we offer, because it's what John passed down to me that I passed down to the over 8,000 people I've worked with over 30 years. It's and I wouldn't tell that for 20 years, yeah, because I was scared people won't believe me and call me a fraud and think I'm insane. But when I came out and said it, the amount of people like, oh my God, I had exactly the same kind of thing happen to me. And The guys that haven't go, I truly believe it. Because coming from where I was on the streets to where I am today is humanly impossible. I had to have God's help. I don't know about you guys out there listening, but I had to do it. It's humanly impossible what I did. And here I am today, loving life. And 4 years ago, my eldest daughter got in contact with me after 25 years. And she, on message in the middle of the night, she says, "Hey, Dad, you know, I've heard that I've seen you on TV. I want to see you. I have something to tell you." And it was like, I was shocked. It was the middle of the night. I woke my wife up and we looked at this and we cried. And I texted her back and I was so nervous. And the next few hours we're on a red eye over to England. And we get there, we're texting away. And next minute I'm at the front door. And just before we knocked, all that stuff came back about what a terrible father you were. You wasn't there for her. You let her down. And she opened the door without us knocking. And we hugged and we cried. And he said, "Dad, I've got something to show you." She called me Dad, Jeff. She called me Dad, and I'd not heard that for so long. And she walked me into her living room, and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter.
Mm.
Right there and then, I knew I was doing good things, Jeff. But 4 weeks ago, my youngest daughter got in touch. And I've started a relationship with her. So it's all come back.
So you're now in communication with all of your children?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's incredible.
I know, and again, Abigail's my youngest, and she won't mind me saying, but when she texts me, she called me Dad again. That's 2 texts I have of my 2 girls calling me Dad that are now framed on my living room wall. Because miracles happen when you do the right thing. Miracles happen when you help God's kids. And, you know, even though we run a multi-million-dollar business, 25% of our company, 25% is pro bono. You know, we have to give back, and we give around $150,000 back, me and my wife. We started the Robb Kelly Foundation about a month ago, but before that, we plow it back in. And I have to give back today and encourage others. And what a best way to do it. You know, if you live in that life and people see this happening, and they know it's they can do it as well.
That's powerful, man. I can relate in some ways. I've battled with different things over the years. I think addiction is so crazy because it affects a lot more people than people ever know, because a lot of people are really good at hiding things. It's easy to spot a meth head because, you know, you can see the signs, but you can't see the signs of everything for a lot of people. And I think those are the ones that are even maybe a little bit more dangerous, because people think that they're not affecting anything. They're not affecting other people because they can hide it. They conceal their issues, but they still walk around with the same guilt and shame, and it hurts their families.
Well, for me, it was like a contagious disease. Everybody I touched got infected with my alcoholism. So you just look at my family. There was probably 100 people around, family and friends of mum and dad's that got affected by my alcoholism. You know, and for a long time I lived in that shame and guilt about what I'd done to my parents. And my mum died a lot early with cancer, because the doctor told me it was because of your homelessness. She used to sit in the window every night looking out. And towards the 12-month period, she was tired, man. She was tired, Jeff. And then she told me, Dad, and she told me, you know, when I got sober, is many a night I'd sat at the window begging for the police to come around and tell me that you were dead, just so I could get it out of my mind. Remember my dad throwing me out one night. And when I told you, I was homeless, he threw me out of the house. He gave me like £30, which is about $200 today, I guess. And he said, "That's you, son." And he's very few words, my dad, you know, very quiet. He closed the door on me. And for many years, Jeff, I hated that man. And 3 or 4 years later, I'm sat in my mum's house, because I'm allowed back in now. And my dad was at the bar Friday night with his friends. And somehow come on about that night. You've come a long way from that night. I'm so proud of you. And I went, yeah, that night, Dad threw me out. I hated him for that. I still do hate him for that, Mom. I can't get rid of it. And she said, son, in 39 years, 45, I don't know how much it was, 45 years of being married to your dad, that's the only time I've seen you cry.
I can't imagine, as a father myself, I know that would be devastating to have to be in that position. That would be devastating.
Yeah. And I relapsed shortly after that because I couldn't handle this. You know, I was on the street, I was drinking, I got well 3 years sober, went to mom, she said that's where I went out and never told her this, and I relapsed straight away because all the crap in my head was like, yeah, you caused this and you caused that. And, you know, I had to do a lot of work on that to be in the place I am today. But before my dad passed away, I never was allowed to, I never made it in time to make amends to my mum. But my dad, finding it back in his house many, many years later, while I was in England, and I made my amends to him. You know, I'm sorry for this, sorry for that. And he said, it's okay, son. And I said, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I said, Dad, it's not okay. The damage that I did for you guys is not okay, Dad. And he said, I forgive you. And then 5 weeks, 6 weeks after that visit, he got Alzheimer's and shortly passed away. But I also tell my sister, because my sister lived over there and took care of him, he's very proud of me. Very proud of what I've accomplished, and you know, so horrible but nice ending kind of thing.
Oh, I mean, the ending isn't even here.
Correct.
The
Love that.
ending's not even here. The crazy awesome part of this story is you went from being homeless for 14 months and damaging every relationship in your life to you now are rebuilding these relationships with your children, and you are helping people that are also struggling with the same things that condemned you. Really, you were walking around in prison to your own addiction, and you have freedom because of God. That's so powerful, man. The lives that
There's a
you're
bunch of things.
changing, the
Yeah,
lives of the people that you're changing, what are they going to do? You have a fire that you're starting with people, and they're going to amplify. It's going to mankind.
yeah. I mean, that's what I live for today. I mean, that's why I get up every morning. I have a great life. I have a crazy life, Jeff. You know, I have all the toys I want. I have all the big houses, the cars, everything like that. But you know, my feet's always on the ground. And really important about that. I don't buy anything that I can't buy cash. My dad always told me that. If you can't buy it cash, don't buy it. And I've always lived by that. You know, so even though I stand here today, I realize that I don't take days off. You know, I have better days than others, but I have a great day because how can I not? Like for instance, this morning I wake up, my wife's already got the coffee on, got my 2 English bulldogs on my bed. You know, you walk out, and every day I walk out to have coffee, I look back at my house and go, how the hell did you end up here? And it's God's blessing. It's God will, you know, we ask for so little, but he wants to give us so much. When you're working with his kids, when you're doing the right thing, you know. It's like if you're in the middle of nowhere and you drop a piece of paper on the floor, do you pick it up? That's the stuff I'm talking about. You know, if the answer is yeah, then, you know, helping people, compliment people every day. Everybody's going through something that nobody else knows about. Everybody. And everybody knows an alcoholic or addict. And if you don't, it's probably you. That's how rampant this disease is. You had all the deathly heart attacks, heart problems, cancers. I had them all. I had every single one you know. Every single one else you know, alcoholism and drug addiction outweighs that by at least 4 times. But people don't know, like you said, people just don't know. And we spent, everything I say and do today, we've researched, we tested in laboratories and hospitals, but the alcoholics and drug addicts, the deaths are not reported as alcohol and drugs. You know, we did a Thursday and Friday and Saturday, I think it was, in Richardson Hospital some years ago for a month, and 90% of people coming through the door had alcohol or drugs into them on a Friday and Saturday night, and 20% of them died, but not one died with alcoholism addiction. It was liver failure or car crash, and they weren't known alcoholics, but the numbers are not being reported, so nobody thinks it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic. And I've been saying this for 20 years, you know.
How long have you been clean and sober?
Well, it's been a few years, so they say. I've never given my sobriety date away, and I'll tell you why. Because, you know, I had someone sponsor me at 25 years sober, and he put sleeping tablets in my coffee and molested me. And I woke up in bed next to him naked. So that's my 25-year-old sobriety, and I hate that. So I don't count the days, I make the days count. And you should know by just speaking to me that I'm in the place that can teach you stuff.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
teach you stuff. So in terms of sobriety mean nothing to me. I've seen people with a week sobriety that I would choose over someone with 20 years sobriety. Because no point in getting well and recovering from that illness, because it's the brain, 3 parts of the brain differ in alcoholics to anybody else. Hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and the amygdala differ from the normal brain. Once you get well, why the hell are you still going to try and live the same lifetime? I mean, alcoholics are the only people in the world that have 2 lives in one lifetime. We've had the first one that's been absolutely crazy and we've messed up, and we've been blessed enough to have this second life where everything starts to come back and you can literally have what you want. But I say this all the time. If you can take all my toys, you can take my house away, you can take the money I have in the bank, you can take everything away, put me in a tent with my wife and my 2 English bulldogs and my cat, and I'll be just as happy then as I am today. Because money doesn't mean anything. See, I thought money would buy my happiness, Jeff. And I remember in Dallas, I was in Dallas for 14 years and San Antonio 4, but I remember buying the brand new 911 Porsche. I had probably a $60,000 Rolex on my hand. I had a beautiful house, and we had a half a floor of the medical building in Highland Park. And I was driving to work, and I wanted to die. I was the most miserable person in the world. And it dawned on me that, oh my God, it's not the money that can make me happy. It's an inside job. It's an inside job. So that's what I teach people today is, the neuroscience behind what's going on with you, the behavioral science. We rewire the brain, we redivert neural pathways, we repair the hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and amygdala, we play the childhood trauma up in neuroscience, and we teach you how to be successful.
So changing your neuro pathways, creating new habits, it almost sounds like a therapy. It's almost like a counseling versus a treatment of prescription of some sort. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more. We do somatic experience, we do brain spotting, we do a lot more than the normal therapist. And it's every single day for 90 days. Like, we program you repetition, strength, and confirms every day. A lot of stuff we do, like 9D trauma work, which is like headphones on and sounds and stuff like that. But yeah, it becomes very personal. I think that's why we have the success rate we do, because we're a coaching company. All my coaches are master's level therapists or master's level psychologists or PhD, but they've all kind of come away from the license and gone to coaching because we can go to other states. We can't cross. I've got one in Australia now that can't work with anybody in the UK under a license, but she can with a coach. So we're doing all these great things and we're changing the dialogue around addiction, childhood trauma, and depression. And we started our own dialogue. And I teach to doctors now. I teach in universities. It's just incredible. I have this life that I want everybody to have. See, what people don't know is you can literally be anybody you want and succeed at anything you want. And people go, well, I don't think that's possible. It's mind. Once we connect with that connection of spirit, it's energy. We have to connect with another energy, whatever that is, supreme being, universe. Once we connect with that energy, with the mind over matter, and we change the circuitry here, then your DNA changes. Why is that important? You're not the same guy when you come into us as when you leave. So people, well, I can't be president of the United States, they used to say to me when I could say you do anything. Forget your political views for a second, guys. We had a business of running the country for 4 years with no political experience whatsoever. How dare you tell me that you can't accomplish your dreams? Stop putting the brakes on your imagination. Go and sort your childhood trauma out. We only go as high as our parents' teachings. So if they're a mechanic, there's a good chance the son's going to be a mechanic. It's like, smash that stuff. It's not the truth. You're capable of doing anything you want in the world.
I want to back up to something you just said. You said your DNA changes.
Yeah, changes.
It physically changes your DNA.
Yeah, doctors know this. We know it. We did tests about 10 years ago on this, and your DNA. I mean, a lot of things can change DNA. Don't get me wrong. It's not just this program. But yeah, your DNA changes slightly. And you can look on the internet, once you get a spiritual connection, your DNA will change. So it's really important because most of this stuff is thought patterns and self-sabotage.
So
you know?
is it a faith-based treatment plan?
No, no, it really isn't. I mean, if you believe in God, Uncle Jim, and universe, it's fine. You just have to believe. The chances of recovery are two things. If you're connected to something outside you that's a higher power, and the family's involved, family. So say that the husband is with us daily, the wife has to do 2 days a week to cover her trauma, so we can come together. But yeah, most people end up believing in something out there
Yeah.
because we should have died 10 times over. Most people will come to us. You know, you can hear the stories that they should have died here, but they've been chosen to carry on. And I truly believe that today. That, you know, alcoholics and addicts and people who are depressed and trouble, they're chosen. Because unless you go through it, you can't help anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm seeking out a new therapist in San Antonio to chat to probably twice a month. And I went into, and I was testing and went into one therapist and said, hey, I'm an ex, alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, no, I can help you. And I said, have you experienced alcoholism? Oh, no, but I've been to college and studied it. And I said, answer this scenario. You're stood there with a bottle of vodka behind your back and won't let me have it. And I'm going to stab you 10 times in the face to get it. Most people freaked out, Jeff, when I said that. Oh,
Yeah.
come on, I can't do that. Do I need to call police? I'm like, no, I'm just testing you. Guess to one old lady, ex-heroin, I didn't know this. And I told her that story, and she went, oh my God, I do the same to you. There's my girl. Because this asset here that become the worst nightmare now becomes our greatest teaching tool. Because people who don't know me will come in and go, yeah, well, Dr. Robb, what you don't know is, I went through this and it, check. Yeah, but check. Well, I got beaten up and almost raped on the check. Everything I've gone through is what the real alcoholic and addict goes through. So then you realize that my homelessness and my loss of children was really a semester at Harvard University.
Yeah.
Because God was teaching me to go through this. And he was teaching me to stand tall. And he just so happens to give me this big physique and attitude that I don't care what you think. I don't care what people think out there. The statistics are down on paper. The research goes back years and years and years. And when you get to 62, Jeff, this thing that happens to you that, whatever you want to, oh, he's this, good for you. God bless you. It's just like, we're not listening to that. And now I get to meet movie stars and musicians for the last 8 years, 9 years, work with these high profile people, see how they live. And then we have normal, what we call normal guys like me that come here. And then obviously people can't afford it that we work with when we can. The waiting list is quite long, but yeah, it's kind of all walks of life because God's taken me through all walks of life. It's just insane, but
Well, and
like you said, it's not over yet.
through your challenges, that was really God qualifying you to teach others, to help
Oh,
others.
yes. I'm
And
very adamant about that, Jeff.
no doubt in my mind that is the reason that you're as successful as you are in this space, because you have lived it. You've been through really rock bottom.
I have, and like I say, you have to be in there. But John told me years ago, he told me that, God's going to take you away from the country. Yeah, and I'm like, John, I'm in Derek's house on a block mattress. I don't think I'm going anywhere, like, and he was true. He brought me here for 2 weeks only to do a talk with a big church in Plano, and I went home, not to live, and I've been there to visit. But yeah, this is where I was brought. Beyond our wildest dreams. You could have
So
predicted this from the street. Nobody in the world could have come of age, in like, I don't know, 3 years' time, you're going to be in America, you're going to be on Oprah, you're going to be on all these shows, and you're going to be changing the world. I would have laughed so much at you, and I'd probably laughed myself to death. And like, that's just stupid, but I didn't know that the education was happening.
yeah. What is something that somebody is struggling? Could you give them an idea, a tip of something that they could do that would help them today to start to change the way that they're behaving?
Always do 3 things for me, guys, and it will change your life from tomorrow. If it doesn't, call me, find me, I'll give you some money. One of the reasons that we know human beings woke up laughing is lack of oxygen. The presence of oxygen equals a lack of disease. So every morning between a normal circadian sleep pattern rhythm, 2 and 5 is when the most repair is done. Our oxygen is at its lowest. So when you get up tomorrow morning, guys, either sit or stand, but if you stand, hold on to something. I want you to take 20 exaggerate breaths in and out. Just fill. We only breathe 45% or around that. So let's flood the oxygen around the brain, central nervous system, every single cell in your body, 20. You will go dizzy, okay? That's fine. Going to the bathroom. Now let's start changing neural pathways around. If you push your hand with the right, 1 week left, 1 week right, 1 week left, 1 week right. That will change patterns. It will change, everything's a pattern. Change patterns around you. You know, if you go on a school trip on a bus and you sat in the seat, you have a great day, you get back on. What seat do you sit in? Same one you travel there in. Okay, so we're changing patterns. The next thing I want you to do is want to start that subconscious brain, start filling that. So if 300 neural pathways die every day, what are you replacing them with? So standing in front of the mirror, don't stand close to it like this when you put your makeup on or shaving, guys, because that's where we see our blemishes. That's when we go out to the world thinking that this is what they see. They don't. They see 6 foot away from the mirror, but all the blemishes disappear. Look yourself in the eye and say, I love you 10 times. I love you. I love you. It'll seem silly. Won't get anything out of it, but we're stuck in that subconscious brain. Do them 3 things every morning. Compliment 3 people every single day. Your life will change from tomorrow. I guarantee it.
I love it. The podcast is the way up. It's about the journey to becoming successful. So what is something that you can identify? And I feel like you've talked about different things that you've identified, but what is, if you had to attribute one thing to your success in your life, what would that be?
Well, it's God first. He makes things happen that you can't, period. But you've got to give back. It's a 50-50 relationship. You know, get to know God, higher power, supreme being, get to know a power greater than you, a connection with the mind. The mind needs an electrical, magnet, energy connection before it starts to program the brain. So yeah, I would do that, guys. As a staunch atheist, I didn't want to do that. I hated God and everything around me. But I'm telling you guys, there's something happening that when you do that, things start to happen because we see things different. Like I'm going to say, when you travel to the studio this morning, office guys, how many red cars you see? Well, I don't know. I don't know. When you go home tonight, count them red cars. Get a call at 6 o'clock. Rob, I saw 12 red cars. How is that? Because you were looking for it. Opportunities are all around you guys, but you're not looking for them because you don't think you're good enough. Ever blonde enough, tall enough, thin enough, or rich enough. Look for the red cars. Look for the red cars. And secondly, have this saying ready for you. Says who? Jimmy, you can't start your own business. Says who? Who's making these rules? I don't like the rules. Start making your own rules up and reach for the stars. Take the brakes off your imagination and find your identity. And life will be amazing.
Yeah, how many times do we tell ourselves or tell other people that we can't do something? We're creating these walls and boundaries for ourselves. We're keeping ourselves captive whenever we're capable of doing all things. The Bible says all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Exactly. And start talking to yourself. You drop a pen on the floor, you're not a stupid idiot. Oh, a stupid idiot. No, stop that stuff. Start treating yourself as someone who's already successful, who's somebody already a millionaire, who's someone that's already got his kids back. Start living that life. Start the feelings around that. If you already had it, do everything we spoke about on this podcast, and you will be successful, whatever that looks like for you. But watch the internal dialogue. That's all you got to watch.
Man, I greatly appreciate you, your message. I love what you're doing. And I know that God is going to continue to bless your business and just affect change and impact. It's powerful, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you, Dr. Robb Kelly.
Yeah, boy.